My dean came from the Architectural Association, which was the most famous school of architecture in the world, and said, Karan, show me something that you admire, your work. And I said, sure, no problem, let's go. And then I thought about it, and there was nothing I could find. And I went back to him and I said, sir, there is nothing I admire. And he said, don't worry, I just wanted to ask you that question. So this guy, when he asked the question to me, after 10 years of practice, we couldn't show him anything. So I went to Manoj, my partner, and I said, look Manoj, I think we better split. And in KGA, Karan Grove Associates, we celebrated our 30th anniversary 3 days ago. I told the office, let us decide where we want to go. And I'm not exaggerating. For 6 months, we didn't do any work. We made 6 drawings so small, 10 inches by 10 inches. One drawing took 1 month. You'd laugh, but I promise you I'm telling you the truth. And we said, what is it in Indian architecture that makes a difference? What is it that we want to be identified with? And what is it that is going to make us, in our opinion, without being arrogant, in all humility, it's going to make us special. So we talked about architecture looking inwards. We talked about the garden as the container, as being contained. We talked about courtyards. We talked about wind towers, wind catchers, jalis, and finally we talked about the architecture of place. 6 months later, we had these 6 drawings, and I said, "Come on, Bachu, we're ready to run." That is something you have to do.
Journeys are seldom about destinations. For us architects, they are about the unlikely hurdles we take on that lead to a surprising blend of concepts. And many a times, we end up with a design we never started out with. But looking back, it's almost as if the journey was meant just for the design to be born. B.V. Doshi and his work are haunting in their own simplicity. It very easily translates to his life growing up as a young kid left to explore the engaging streets of Pune. His work will make you stand in open-mouthed awe, and its skill in making a wanderer feel like he's finally arrived home. This multifaceted individual urges his students to relate their designs to the sensitivity of nature around them with the rhythm and earnest of a beating heart. An admirer of living in the details, Rahul Dalvi is an architect who sets himself a class apart. In a very short period of time, Rahul Dalvi has been able to reach great heights and set his name as one of the most influential young architects. A cricketer by hobby and an architect by heart and choice, he likes to stress on the simplicity in design and highly disapproves imitations of any manner. Karan Grover is one architect that helps us interpret the meaning of panache in its utmost sense. He has revolutionized living by not just being a phenomenal architect, but also a brilliant swimmer, teacher, orator, and everything in between. He has been passionately advocating the need to look at one's culture and heritage for clues as to the direction for a contemporary form of architecture and sustainable development relevant to the Indian context today. Family tradition is an emotion which defines a person. But what defines a person eventually becomes his tradition. Skipping pathways to architecture was a coincidental one, albeit a great success for Dipen Gada. A civil engineer by profession and self-taught in the tricks of architecture, Dipen Gada strives to maintain a balance between aesthetics and functionality in his designs. Everything about Yashwant Mistry induces in you his spirit of feeling and living architecture. A 16-year-old trapped in an older man's body, Yashwant Mistry believes in the zest of life and living like a Maharaja. His architecture speaks volumes of thinking in totality. He treats architecture as a timeless, immortal profession and widely propagates the notion of giving structures a soul and letting every inch of them breathe. Our journey starts here. It is a journey that takes us into the lives of architects from different walks of life and brings them together to share their valuable experiences in portraying their roles as students, teachers, and maestros of architecture.
My family is a family of architect. My father was an architect. He was the pioneer of the interior decorations in India. And right from childhood, I have grown up in the very same atmosphere of design. During the age at 6, you see, because I was silently doing some painting, hiding myself underneath the bed so that he doesn't fire me, you see. And he saw that I was doing something, you see. So he tapped me and gave me a set of brush and colors and papers and everything, and I was absolutely free.
We were from the background of merchandising, and we were clothing merchant since past 40 years. It was an accident that I am into this field. Actually, I have not done architecture. My professional training is not B Arch. I have done B Civil. So I thought that I should stay at my showroom and then I'll run the showroom. One day my cousin asked me that, I bought the marble and why don't you look after all such things because you have learned this thing. I said, okay, fine. I've realized what is my strength and what is my designing passion and overall what I would like to do. Then after I've never looked back.
My father was working in a bank and there was nothing like a family business. It was a normal conservative Maharashtrian family in which I come from. So it was always service oriented. With respect to my liking, I always wanted to be an engineer. So when I cleared my 12th, by stroke of luck, I filled the form of architecture because I was not well and my friend got all the forms, out of which architecture was one such form. So I filled it up, gave the aptitude test and I got an admission. Having said that, I still didn't want to go into architecture. So because of my parents' will, I went into architecture for those 15 days. And after attending a few of the orientation and motivational lectures done by the seniors like Yashwant Mistry sir, I didn't go for my engineering and I stayed back.
I went by chance. I had joined science college. My teacher, who was also, I was going to the painting studio, art studio, and he suggested, why do you go to science? Why don't you go to architecture? Because it is better for you. So I went by chance. But it has become my life because I was already connected to life. Without people there is no life, without people there is no architecture. It's not just a building, it's not a box. In my case, my childhood experiences have haunted me. An extended family of almost 20-30 people. So you see the life of people at all levels, from birth to death.
The biggest struggle which I had to face is that I was ahead of the time thinking. I was quite ahead of the time thinking, and that was creating a biggest hurdle in me to convincing the client When a client comes to you, see, you have to study him thoroughly. Psychologically, physically, his requirement, his mind, what is he is having in his mind, you see. You must be able to read his mind, you see. Because you are going to design a house or a structure for himself. He trusts you, put all his money, gives his money to you to spend for him.
Saying no. See, saying no at some point of time when you are actually in middle of your practice, where you are actually growing up. Is it important to just make a money? Is it important to just earn the name? Or the importance is to enjoy your work? It was a risk, but then ultimately it has paid off.
I think biggest risk is reputation and your own pride. I'm too proud of myself. I only do, and until I finish, I will not do. Like my daughter's house here, I changed several times over 3 years until I was happy. So your pride must be the biggest challenge. You should feel inside. So actually there's no measure except your own. It is you only your measure. And I think that is the risk one must take. You are like a fragile glass. You are precious. And whatever you produce is also precious.
Initial struggles play a big role in a student's life. They have the potential to make or break him and help him evolve into something much more.
For me, style is an era which constitutes of culture, weather, tradition, everything. So just as an era changes with time, style can never be consistent. A style which is acceptable in the 1700s may not be acceptable in the 1750s because the generations would have changed. So it is very wrong to say that I would disagree with a style because that style was not meant to be from my era, from my thought process. But having said that, all styles are right. None of them are wrong because they are relative to one particular era, one particular time at which it actually happened. But yes, I disagree to any style. Which doesn't respect the conditions of that local area where it is being practiced. Second strong point that I disagree upon is the over-opulent vulgar display of wealth, which doesn't have a style, which doesn't have a class, and only exhibits or tries to exhibit wealth.
People who are just for sake of aesthetic, when they are creating negative spaces. So whenever such kind of things which is happening, it is always a point of criticism for me. But many of the things which is actually creating negative spaces is a criminal wastage of space, money and extra energy. And the most visible example is the adoption of West in terms of glass buildings or glass facades.
I would definitely disagree to one style of architecture. You see, the style is a stamping, which I call it, you see. The architecture has to be derived. The consistency of the architecture, its proportion, the philosophy which he is working, you see, must be properly translated to create that identity of the function of that building, you see. That is what it should not have the style where the hospital also looks like the same as the court, as the factory, as the institutions, as any other building which you are designing for, you see.
Imitation. I don't think that is what we should follow. Anything anybody repeats is not worth it. It is, they call second hand, no?
The kind of architecture I dislike, let's take Frank Gehry. Why to use titanium? It is ludicrously expensive. I have shown a picture, a film from him, where someone came to him in the office and said, "Sir, what do you think of it?" And he said, "It's shit." Takes that paper, crumbles it and chucks it and said, "Well, that's a very nice roof, yeah? Let's do that. That's the roof of the Guggenheim." That became the roof of the Guggenheim. No, that's absurd. No, that's absurd. That bloody roof of the Guggenheim costs, $100 million. Libeskind, the Holocaust Museum, you can't exhibit anything. So this is the architecture of yourself. I think you have to have the architecture of people, the architecture of place, the architecture that you were asked to do. Korea, Bharat Bhavan, they said, "We want to have a museum to display stuff." Korea said the proportion has to be 7 feet. You cannot put a painting that size because the top of the painting is higher than 7 feet. 7 feet is that door. If you put that painting, the top, and it's a small painting, this painting, to forget. This painting will touch the floor. It can't be. What is this proportion Korea was talking about? Absurd. That was an architecture of themselves, not an architecture of purpose, not an architecture of place, and certainly not an architecture of value.
Student life is an important step in the journey of an architect. Like a well-written prelude of a book, it has the ability to engage and inspire the traveler and strengthen his foundation to the core. What it doesn't really show you is what happens next.
I think every student must have pride, purpose, and passion. Every to-be architect must have pride, purpose, and passion. Now, in your work, this is in yourself, inside you. In your work, you must have honesty, integrity, and perseverance. So you've got to have honesty and integrity, and you've got to persevere with these two. You have to have a vision. Without this, I think you should become a plumber or a gardener or something else. If you don't have this, forget architecture. I believe this whole issue of architecture is about to serve your client, to serve the community, to serve the urban fabric, to serve society, and therefore to change lives. I think changing lives is, to me, the most important thing about architecture.
As a student life, one has to keep traveling, one has to keep experiencing the place which is already people have made, one has to feel, one has to see around, one has to keep reading, one has to keep observing. Now when you adopt that practice in your life, basically one has to experience. When somebody can experience certain things, they can design by themselves.
As students in architecture, you are never taught everything that an architect out there in the open experiences. You cannot have 100% of designing time out of your time. So a project will always have only 15 to 20% of your overall time as designing. But it would be very nice, or rather it's very important to know that as a student, your 100% time is devoted to design. This 100% of time that you dedicate or devote to designing ultimately is boiling down to only that 15-20% of your professional life. So if you're clear in your student life, if you're clear of your concepts, the clarity of understanding what is your profession, in these 5 years of architecture as a student, it becomes easier because you won't get that 100% time when you come out. It's only that 15% that you're going to put in. And that 15% is what people see when they look at a structure designed by you. And they take a call whether you are a good architect or not. But they don't know for that 15% to be justified, the other 75-85% is the management which that architect did to get his creativity right. That's the reason hard work in these 5 years is extremely imperative to be a successful architect.
Feeling. This is the word I must say. I mean, no teacher can, teach you the feeling. They teach you the theory. They teach you their experiences. They teach you what they have observed. They teach you what one can do. They teach you how one can overcome the limitations, you know. But feeling is one thing that is very, very personalized.
He has to be absolutely extrovert. The extrovertness is what that you must be talkative, you must be very expressive, you see. If you quietly explain the whole thing, will not make things live. The building is not standing and still in a talk. You have to express that the building is really ready, you see. You have to thrust their imagination that yes, this architect is going to give us a fantastic building. So that extrovertness has to be there, and that is the finest quality a good architect must possess.
So if you want to be an architect, but if you want to be really a creative architect, and if you want to remain fresh for yourself, the only way you can do is to do what you have not done. It should be a fresh paper every morning. Integrity, self-pride, and never afraid of losing ground. Don't lose anything. What will happen? Worst comes, you will die, no? But there are millions of people on the road. Go and visit slums. Go and visit shacks. Go and visit all the workers on the site and ask them how much they will get. And ask them how many children have died or their families and whatnot. And you will find life is not so expensive. It is all we think. This is what makes you troublesome. So don't ever think about it. So I think if I say to students, I said, if you want to be whatever you are, be yourself, believe in what you want to do, think properly, and believe that you will make history.
I have to tell you, I came back from England in 1975. So today, 4 days ago marked my 40 years of practice. And my best friend in college, Manoj, said to me when I came back from England that he was waiting for me to start a practice. And in this excitement of doing architecture, we started a practice. I think in retrospect, that was our biggest mistake. That we did not think of what we wanted to do. Identify one purpose. Something that you are fond of, something that you love, something that you're willing to spend the rest of your life to do, and then spend the damn rest of your life doing it.
There are a million and more design philosophies subscribed to in the present age. But which ones to stick on to are always the biggest questions to a student these days.
Nowadays, the architecture which is happening is damn Dawood Ibrahim style, you see. There is no soul, you see. It is all money, 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 money. And it is so commercial. So I first, my message to the student is that first of all, try to be Maharaja. You don't need money. It is an attitude. It's an absolute attitude, you see. That attitude, if you have, your thinking is you have to think loud, you have to think beauty, beauty, beauty.
I feel I have a new idea of architecture, and I think we are the new patrons. I think we're the new Maharajas. I think we have to change lives. I think we have to look after people. We're the only people who can do it. The lawyer fights a case. The doctor saves one life. We make cities, yaar. We change the way you think. We define spaces, and our spaces define the way you behave.
Architecture is enjoying life. We are I again say this, we are the privileged ones we are the privileged ones out of the super professional professions, wherein the lawyer, doctor, architects, they all fall. The doctor earns more money than us probably, if money is success, so to say, but he earns out of the sad faces of the patients. The lawyer also earns more than us probably, if that is again success to us. But then his life is all about, life is all about taking someone out of a problem. But a person is always in a problem when he approaches a lawyer. So you always are seeing these sad faces. Architecture is one profession wherein your clients come with money, they are happy and they want to be happier.
My role of architecture I learned from Corbusier. His guru was Michelangelo, no less. And every time he would say something, he would only refer to history. One day he was doing a building which the engineer said, my colleague in front of me, he said, this will have cracks. And he said, so what if these cracks, in the sky, God will paint blue, no? And he walked away. Challenges will come, people will say, this is not possible, that is not possible, it is not true. Gufa would never have happened. School of architecture would not have happened if the curriculum was not totally different. Sangat would never happen because people would say this kind of buildings don't work. So you can do this, and remember Rock Cut Temple, Ellora. How can they do this building? Is there any architect who can carve from top down or from front back and without making a mistake and knowing exactly where the staircase is, where the railing is, where the painting is? I think future is what you have to make. Would you like to create a miserable society? Would you like to make a generous society? Would you like to make an intelligent society? Everything we want to do is through network, cut and paste. We don't know the real dimensions. So what do? So you don't know the dimensions, you don't know the realities, you only know notion. I think the first thing student must learn is take a paper, pencil and sketch, have a tape in their pocket, measure them to know what is the dimension, what is the height. Go around and look at ancient buildings, look at new buildings, study light, study space, study material and study the context. We are doing buildings as if that they are boxes, they are made for dead people. Everywhere is possible, students should go around and see and do what they think. So first thing student must do is think, travel, go around life, find out meaning of life, find out what is it that they enjoy most. So architecture is a living being. You are talking about creating life. You are talking about creating a world of your own, a completely unique world. And that is what I learned from Corbusier. Be yourself. References are only snacks. It is not the full meal. Full meal is your real experience going inside you. I think every doctor knows what the body is about. Do we know what architecture is? Do we know what space is? Do we know what light is? Do we know what material is? Do we know what proportions are? Do we know what rhythms are? Ultimate goal when it comes to work and what you want to be remembered for. That I have tried. People should remember, yes, this chap tried. That's good enough.
Dr. Le Corbusier salute after bowing his head and removing his salute to the architecture in front of Taj Mahal is completed. That is what I want to be. That's through architecture.
A time wherein I would prefer to do research on design and construction techniques and then try to promote it and put in all the energy to see to it that those researches are executed and don't just remain in books in the libraries. So that is one thing which I'm sure I'm going to do sometime. And another thing is to write a book. Write a book about what is architecture to me, about the misbeliefs of this profession, about and about whatever I feel about architecture and my experiences. If at all it is of any use to the next generation, I would be very happy.
When I was 23 and R.N. Mehta gave me Champaner, he told me that he had discovered the ashes of Lord Buddha. Jeevraj Mehta told his wife Hansa Mehta, who was the Vice Chancellor of MS University, that look, we're going to build a dam at Shamlaji. I believe there are some things there you may want to excavate. They looked. They found a brick stoop, 100 feet by 100 feet. And 1/3 in the stoop, they found a casket so big, about exactly as my hand is, which said that inside this casket is a gold casket with the ashes of Lord Buddha. Those ashes are lying in the MS University Department of Archaeology Godrej cupboard, locked. I now want to go to the government to drain the dam, to find the brick if they are still there. If not, to build the same stoop above Shamlaji. And I've talked to the Chancellor that we will put that casket back where we found it, to make it the first time in the world that the casket sent by Emperor Ashok of the ashes of Lord Buddha can be found in the stoop that was built to house the ashes. That is my next project.
So the journey has been of many kinds. When we talk of challenges, I think every day, if you are not curious, you will never make a mistake or you will never learn. So challenges are your own. You have to create your own challenges by asking. You must go through austerity, experience of struggle, and all the time thinking that tomorrow you don't know, otherwise you will never invent. So discoveries come from that inner search. Like the trees grow, they have to grow against gravity. How does it happen? And they blossom. Look at the way the rains would beat them, the wind would come. Not having a client, not getting things enough should not be a problem. And I think that journey, if the journey is smooth, then you will get bored. And I think that is the meaning of journey. Otherwise it is travel.
Journeys are seldom about destinations. For us architects, they are about the unlikely hurdles we take on that lead to a surprising blend of concepts. And many a times, we end up with a design we never started out with. But looking back, it's almost as if the journey was meant just for the design to be born.